Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're joining you on your own research journey. You've been digging into a particular topic,
Yep.
and a name keeps popping up, Jonathan McDonald. Now all we have to go on is his LinkedIn profile, which isn't our usual stack of research papers, but you know what? It's like a treasure map full of clues.
That's right. Think of it as a mini autobiography, carefully crafted to show the world who McDonald is, or at least how he wants to be seen.
And let me tell you, this profile is fascinating. We're talking about a guy who claims he can revolutionize education, transform global social mobility, and just casually mentions he needs $50 billion to make it all happen. He's got this project called Potency.world, which sounds pretty potent.
Ambitious, certainly, and that's what we're here to unpack today. Who is this Jonathan McDonald? What is Potency.world all about? And most importantly, does he have the substance to back up these bold claims? Consider us your co-investigators on this deep dive.
Okay, let's start with McDonald's background, because even his career path is intriguing. His LinkedIn profile shows experience in sales and marketing, but there are gaps where specific job titles are missing, almost like he was off building secret projects.
That's a great observation. It could suggest an entrepreneurial spirit, someone who's comfortable taking risks, starting their own ventures. That kind of experience could mean he's adaptable, a problem solver, but also maybe a bit restless, always on to the next big thing.
And that next big thing seems to be Potency.world. He describes it as this massive platform with the goal of revolutionizing education, offering high-level business consulting, and even transforming social mobility on a global scale. So he's not just aiming for incremental change. He's going for systemic worldwide impact. Where does this drive even come from?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, what experiences shaped this kind of ambition? And how does he plan to bring together these seemingly disparate fields? Education, business consulting, social change. It's like he's trying to create an ecosystem of change, where each part influences the others.
All right, let's get specific. One claim that really jumped out at me. He says he can double Shell's profits with his business consulting ideas.
Now that's a statement that demands scrutiny. We need to ask, is this visionary thinking? Or is it an overestimation of his methods? The energy sector is incredibly complex, with factors like economic volatility, geopolitical risks, and the shift to sustainable energy all playing a role. What specific strategies is he proposing, and what evidence supports his claim?
It's like he's thrown down a gauntlet, challenging us to dig deeper. And you know what? I'm up for the challenge. Now, education seems to be a major focus for McDonald. He's done volunteer work teaching children, and his profile has some strong opinions about traditional education systems.
He's definitely not shy about expressing those opinions. He criticizes the way we label children with special educational needs, going so far as to call it detrimental. He seems to be advocating for personalized learning, recognizing and nurturing each child's unique strengths and potential.
He even uses a quote in his profile about how labeling children can limit their potential. It definitely makes you think. But is he advocating for evidence-based alternatives? And how does he define personalized learning in practical terms?
That's the key question, isn't it? We need to distinguish between a compelling vision and a well-defined methodology. Personalized learning has been gaining traction in education for a while now, but implementation is tricky. How do you tailor education to individual needs in a classroom setting, especially when you're talking about doing this on a global scale?
Let's not forget the social mobility aspect of Potency.world. He emphasizes empowering women and improving the economic well-being of families.
It's interesting how he connects education to economic opportunity and breaking cycles of poverty. Is he defining social mobility as upward economic movement, or is there a broader definition at play? It's crucial to understand his specific framework. And while the vision is admirable, is it realistic? Are there social and economic complexities he might be overlooking?
You're right, we can't just accept these ideas at face value. We need to analyze them. Consider the potential downsides, and look for concrete evidence. So far, we've got this intriguing mix of ambition, strong convictions, and a desire for large-scale impact. But there are still a lot of missing pieces to this puzzle.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. We need to move beyond the surface level and dig deeper into the mechanics of Potency.world. What are the concrete initiatives under each of these umbrellas? Education, business, social change, and how do those initiatives translate into real-world results?
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. We know McDonald has a diverse background, he's passionate about education and social change, and he's not afraid to make bold claims. But we also have a ton of questions.
And those questions are our guideposts as we move forward in this investigation. We need to examine the evidence, analyze the claims, and ultimately decide for ourselves. Is Jonathan McDonald a visionary leader on the cusp of something truly transformative? Or is this a case of ideas outpacing reality?
Stay with us, because in the next part of this deep dive, we're going to unpack those big questions and see what we can uncover about the inner workings of Potency.world. All right, we're back and ready to dive deeper into the mechanics of Potency.world. We've got this $50 billion figure floating out there. What could that kind of money realistically achieve in the realm of education reform, business consulting, and social change? It's hard to even wrap your head around it.
It's a staggering sum, but it makes sense to break it down. Let's consider education reform, for example. Think about the costs involved in developing new curricula, training teachers, creating personalized learning platforms, and providing resources to underserved communities. And that's just one piece of the puzzle.
You know, when I hear that number, I immediately wonder, where's the money coming from? Is he looking at traditional philanthropy, venture capital, government funding, or something entirely different?
It's a crucial question. Securing that level of funding would require a compelling pitch, a detailed plan, and probably a mix of funding sources. It makes me wonder if there's a strategy document or a white paper somewhere that outlines these financial projections.
Let's go back to the business consulting side for a minute. McDonald claims he can double Shell's profits. To put that in perspective, Shell's profits were in the tens of billions of dollars last year. If he can achieve even a fraction of that increase, it would be a huge win for any consulting firm. But what are the typical challenges consulting firms face in delivering such results?
Consulting often involves identifying inefficiencies, optimizing processes, and implementing new strategies. But in a global company like Shell, you're also dealing with complex organizational structures, regulatory hurdles, and market fluctuations. It's not as simple as waving a magic wand and watching profits soar.
And I imagine there's a lot of competition in that space. What would make McDonald's consulting services stand out? Does he have a track record of success that we can examine? Case studies, testimonials, anything concrete that supports his claims.
Right, we need to look beyond the bold statement and ask, what's the evidence? If he's worked with other energy giants or multinational corporations, that would lend some credibility to his claims. But without that evidence, it's hard to assess the validity of his expertise.
Okay, let's shift gears back to education. We touch on his critique of traditional approaches and his emphasis on personalized learning. But I'm still curious about the specifics. What are some of the prominent methodologies or challenges within the field of personalized learning? Is he drawing inspiration from existing models? Or is he proposing something entirely new?
Personalized learning isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. There are various approaches, from using technology to tailor instruction, to creating flexible learning environments that cater to different learning styles. One common challenge is finding ways to effectively assess individual needs and progress. Another is ensuring that teachers have the training and resources to implement these approaches effectively.
And how does he plan to address the existing inequalities in access to quality education? Different countries, regions, and communities face unique challenges. A truly global initiative needs to consider those nuances.
Right, absolutely. A one-size-fits-all approach won't cut it. Potency.world would need to adapt to different cultural contexts, address resource disparities, and consider the role of language, technology, and infrastructure in different parts of the world.
This brings us back to the question of social mobility. McDonald connects education, opportunity, and breaking cycles of poverty. But let's unpack that a bit. How does he define social mobility? Is it purely about economic advancement, or does it encompass broader measures of well-being, access to resources, and social inclusion?
It's a critical distinction. If his definition is too narrow, he might miss the complexities of social change, for example. Even with improved education and economic opportunities, individuals can still face systemic barriers related to race, gender, or social background.
I'm starting to see a pattern here. We've got these big, ambitious goals, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But the details of how those goals will be achieved are still fuzzy. It's like he's presented us with a beautiful blueprint, but we're missing the construction manual.
And that's where our critical thinking skills come in. We need to ask, what are the potential downsides or unintended consequences of his vision? For example, could his focus on individual potential overshadow the need to address systemic issues? Could his solutions inadvertently exacerbate existing inequalities?
You know, as we're talking, I'm realizing just how much we're reading between the lines here. We're extrapolating. Making inferences,
Yeah.
trying to fill in the gaps based on limited information.
That's the nature of a deep dive, isn't it? We're like detectives, piecing together clues and trying to understand the bigger picture. And in this case, the picture is still coming into focus. But I think we're starting to get a sense of both the potential and the pitfalls of McDonald's vision.
So where do we go from here? We've got a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of ground to cover.
Well, the next logical step is to examine the evidence. Let's see what we can find on McDonald's website. Are there detailed explanations of his methodologies, case studies highlighting past successes, or independent analyses of his work?
Right. Let's move beyond this LinkedIn profile and see what else we can uncover about Jonathan McDonald and the inner workings of Potency.world. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll analyze the evidence and try to draw some conclusions. About this fascinating, enigmatic figure, we've spent this deep dive exploring the ambitious claims and ideas of Jonathan McDonald. His LinkedIn profile is like a highlight reel,
Yeah.
but we've been trying to dig beneath the surface and find the substance behind those highlights.
Exactly. We've been asking, is this a case of talk the talk? Or can he actually walk the walk?
Right.
To figure that out, we need to go beyond the curated presentation and look for independent verification, concrete examples, and a deeper understanding of his methodologies.
So we did a bit of digging and found McDonald's website for Potency.world. It's definitely visually striking, full of bold statements and inspiring imagery. Kind of reminds me of those TED Talk stages with the giant screens and dramatic lighting.
It definitely has that big idea aesthetic, doesn't it? It's designed to capture your attention and make you feel like you're part of something groundbreaking. But as we've been discussing, the visuals need to be backed up by substance.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about what we found. The website expands on the three main pillars of Potency.world: education reform, business consulting, and social mobility. There's a section on educational philosophy, where he lays out his critique of traditional systems and his vision for personalized learning. He talks about nurturing individual potential, fostering creativity, and preparing students for a rapidly changing world.
It's interesting that he uses the term liberating potential rather than just unlocking potential. It suggests a more radical approach, a rejection of the constraints he sees in traditional education.
He also provides some examples of alternative learning environments, things like project-based learning, mentorship programs, and experiential learning outside the classroom. It's clear he's drawn inspiration from various progressive educational models.
It's encouraging to see specific examples, but I'm still left wanting more detail. How would these models be implemented on a large scale? How would they be adapted to different cultural contexts? And how would he measure success?
And that brings us back to the $50 billion question. The website mentions creating a global network of potency centers, which sound like hubs for education, innovation, and community development. But there's no breakdown of how that money would be allocated, no financial projections, no details about fundraising strategies. It's almost like he's saying, trust me, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that lack of transparency is a red flag for me. For a project of this magnitude, you'd expect to see a detailed business plan, a team of advisors, and a clear roadmap for implementation. Without that, it's hard to assess the feasibility of his vision.
There's also a section on the website about his business consulting services, but it's pretty vague. It mentions helping companies achieve exponential growth and disrupt their industries, but doesn't provide specific examples of his past successes or his methodologies.
It's interesting that he uses a lot of buzzwords that are popular in the startup world, like disruption and exponential growth. It makes me wonder if he's trying to appeal to a particular audience, perhaps investors who are looking for the next big thing.
The section on social mobility is similarly high level. It talks about empowering women, creating economic opportunities, and building a more just and equitable world. But there are no concrete initiatives, no partnerships with existing organizations, no metrics for measuring impact.
It seems like he's relying on the power of these broad, aspirational statements. Without providing the specifics of how he'll achieve these ambitious goals, it's all very compelling on the surface. But when you start to peel back the layers, you're left with more questions than answers.
We also tried to find independent analyses or critiques of McDonald's work, but there's not much out there. He seems to be flying under the radar, at least for now.
That's not necessarily a bad thing. It could mean that he's still in the early stages of building this project. But it also makes it harder for us to assess his credibility and the potential impact of Potency.world.
So where does this leave us? We've gone deep, we've explored the claims, we've examined the website, and we've tried to find independent perspectives. But we're still left with a puzzle.
It's like we've been given a glimpse of a grand vision, but the details are shrouded in mystery, and it's up to each of us to decide how we interpret that.
Do we see Jonathan McDonald as a visionary leader with the potential to change the world? Or is this a case of ambition outpacing reality?
There's no easy answer, and that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. It's not about reaching a definitive conclusion, but about engaging in critical thinking, questioning assumptions, and forming our own informed opinions.
We started this deep dive with the goal of uncovering who Jonathan McDonald is and what Potency.World is all about. And I think we've achieved that, at least to some extent.
Yeah, we've learned that he's a complex figure with a diverse background, a passion for education and social change, and a knack for crafting compelling narratives. We've also learned that his vision is ambitious, to say the least, and that he's not afraid to make bold claims.
But we've also uncovered a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
We've seen a gap between the grand pronouncements and the concrete details. And we've encountered a lack of transparency when it comes to funding, methodologies, and evidence of past successes.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? I think it comes down to this. Don't stop here. Keep digging, keep questioning, keep exploring.
Exactly. This deep dive has been a starting point, not a destination. It sparked our curiosity, raised important questions, and hopefully inspired you to continue the investigation on your own.
If Jonathan McDonald and Potency.World have piqued your interest, don't take our word for it. Do your own research. Seek out different perspectives and form your own conclusion.
That's the essence of the deep dive. We're not here to provide all the answers, but to equip you with the tools and the mindset to navigate the complex world of information and ideas.
So, go forth, deep divers, and let us know what you discover. We're always eager to hear from our fellow explorers on this journey of lifelong learning.
Until next time, keep diving deep.